Hello guys, today's topic is time zone and daylight saving. But before you jump into the topic, I will just summarize whatever is the crux of the whole thing. Crux is that we should be able to set up the meetings properly when we have different clients coming from the US or from the UK or France or Russia or maybe Germany. So these are the major countries in which you have the clients. So what time zone do they follow? If it's a US client, then they can follow either of these four time zones. There are many other time zones. US has 11 time zones, but you don't need to remember all of them. The mainland of the US has only these four time zones. So during the winter time, they will be following these time zones. It is UTC, that is the Universal Time Coordinated, that is the GMT, minus 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours, or 5 hours. Okay, we in India follow UTC plus 5.5. In the US, they follow UTC minus 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, or 8 hours. Okay, so US is always behind India and even behind UTC, whereas India is ahead of the UTC. Okay, but in the summertime, they follow DST, that is daylight saving. So just add 1 hour to all of these readings. So here Pacific Standard Time plus 1 hour, that means UTC plus 7 hours, so UTC minus 7 hours is Pacific Daylight Time. Okay, similarly Mountain Standard Time, Mountain Daylight Time, Central Standard Time, Central Daylight Time, Eastern Standard Time, and Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, then UK. UK follows GMT, also called as UTC, during the winter, but in the summer they always advance their clock by 1 hour. So now during the summer they will be following UTC plus 1. France, during the winter time, it is following Central European Time, which is already UTC plus 1. In summer, it will become UTC plus 2. Okay, and that is called as Central European Summer Time. So in many European clients, in the case of many European clients, you must be hearing words like, okay, it is CEST now. The time zone is CEST. And sometimes you see that their time zone is CET. So what's the difference? CET is during the winter and CEST is during the summer. Similarly, Germany is following exactly the same thing as France follows. Okay, so this is the basic slide. This is the summary kind of a slide. If you want, take a screenshot of it. Okay, now those who are interested in knowing what is time zone, why did it come into existence, and what is daylight saving, again, why did it come into existence, and should we be following daylight saving? Because in India we don't follow it, the Western countries normally follow it. So why do they follow it, and should we also start following it? So if you have that kind of questions, inquisitiveness if you have in you, then you stay back for the rest of the video. Otherwise, the main thing I've covered in the first 5 minutes itself. Okay, so for the inquisitive people, for the Nat Geo kind of people who normally see the Discovery Channel and the Nat Geo channel, this is where we start. What are time zones and daylight saving? The agenda is, I will discuss what is latitude, what is longitude. Latitudes are also called as parallels, longitudes are also called as meridians. What is the whole concept? Why did it come into existence? Then what is GMT? That is Greenwich Mean Time, and it is now, after 1972, it is now called as UTC, that is Universal Time Coordinated. So what is that? Then the concept of time zones. So different country follows different time zones. Certain countries follow multiple time zones, and then there are many countries which follow the same time zone also. So it is one to many or many to one relationship. Okay, so it's very puzzled up. So we will dive into that topic over here. What is the concept of time zones? Then I'll discuss a few countries having multiple time zones. Like US has 11 time zones, Russia also has 11 time zones, France has 12 time zones. Why so many time zones? We'll discuss. Then time zones in the USA, because most of our clients are from the US. Again, time zones in Europe, because some of our clients are also from Europe. Then summarizing the major time zones. So this is the same slide that I showed you, except without daylight saving. Because daylight saving I explained after that. What is daylight saving? Why is it important? And then very few countries follow daylight saving. Only the Western countries follow it. And why very few countries? If it were such a nice concept, then everyone would have jumped on it and everyone would have followed it. But nowadays, even these Western countries are now thinking that okay, daylight saving doesn't make any sense anymore. It used to be useful when there were factories and there was all that kind of a labor force which had to get into the factory at certain time, and then during the summer they used to say okay, now you can wake up a little earlier and come to the factory 1 hour early, and in return we will leave you 1 hour early as well. So that was called as daylight saving. But nowadays we don't work in that kind of an environment where there are factories and production with manual labor and everything. So it doesn't really make sense nowadays, and that's why even the US is now thinking about doing away with the daylight saving. And if the US drops the idea of daylight saving, then I stand guarantee all the Western countries slowly will lose this daylight saving thing, because it is not very practical in the current scenario. In the 21st century, it doesn't make sense. And then finally, the last slide that I just showed you, that is the summary. With daylight saving, what are the various time zones that US, UK, France, and Germany follow? Okay. So let's get to the first topic, which is what is longitudes and what is latitudes. So longitudes are also called as meridians. Latitudes are also called as parallels. So the concept of latitudes and longitudes came just because we wanted to pinpoint any spot on the surface of the earth. Mind you, surface of the earth. We are not talking about some point below the crust of the earth. We are not talking about that. We are only talking about the surface. So if you want to locate any point on the surface of the earth, then we use latitudes and longitudes. What are latitudes? Latitudes means parallels, means every imaginary line going through the surface of the earth or going over the surface of the earth, which is parallel to the equator. That is called as latitude. And longitude, on the other hand, are those imaginary lines which are connecting the North Pole to the South Pole. And of course, they are not going directly through the earth, they are going over the earth's surface. They are going like this. And that's why they are called as longitudes, because they run through the length of our globe. And that's why longitudes. Okay, latitudes because they are running horizontal. That's why latitudes. Of course, latitudes are also called as parallels because they are parallel to the equator, and longitudes are also called as meridians because the prime meridian is the main meridian, and all the other meridians are drawn parallel to it. I mean, it's not parallel, but you can say, given a certain these are all arcs, right? So after 1 degree you will draw one more arc, after 1 more degree you will draw one more arc, so this way 360 degrees you will come back to prime meridian. So all those arcs are called as meridians, and the primary meridian, the first meridian which is considered as the basis for drawing all the other meridians, is called as a prime meridian. Okay, now how do you locate any spot on the globe? So whenever the spots, let us say it is this spot, so this spot is, you can say it is 30 degrees to the north of the equator and 20 degrees towards the east of the prime meridian. Okay, so the way to say it is, always mention about the latitude first, because you say lat long, so latitude comes first. So 30 degrees north comma 20 degrees east. Okay, similarly, suppose this point will be 40 degrees north and 30 degrees west. Why? Because it is to the west of the prime meridian. Similarly, let us say this particular point, it will be 20 degrees south comma 30 degrees west. Okay, so this is how you plot various points on the surface of the earth. Now it is a little confusing sometimes to use north, south, east, west. So normally people say, let's speak in positive and negative. So whenever you are going towards the north of the equator, you will say it is positive. And whenever you're going to the south of the equator, you are going to say that it is negative. So this point, for example, will be called as 40 degrees, comma, minus 30 degrees. Why? Because now everything towards the east of the prime meridian is positive and everything towards the west of the prime meridian is negative. So here you are saying that this is minus 30 degrees. So instead of saying west, you will say minus 30 degrees. Similarly, if this point, suppose, so this point is what, 40 degrees, comma, 70 degrees. Both are in positive because it is towards the north of the equator and it is towards the east of the prime meridian. Okay, similarly, this point, let us say it is, it is minus 20 because it is south of the equator, so minus 20, comma, minus 30. Why? Because it is towards the west of the prime meridian. So this way you tell about how north or east it is, how much towards the north or east it is, north or south it is of the equator, that is the latitude, and then you say how much east, how much towards the east or west it is to the prime meridian, that is called as longitude. So you first say latitude and then you say longitude. Okay. Then of course also remember this, that longitudes are also called as meridians. These are imaginary lines joining the north and the south poles geographical, means the geographical north and the south pole. See, earth rotates, right? So whatever is the imaginary line at the center around which this earth is rotating, that is called as axis of the earth. Okay, so axis touches the surface of the earth towards the north, that is called as north pole. Axis touches the surface of the earth towards the south, which is called as south pole. So north pole and south pole, these are what? These are geographical north and south. Why? Because it is based on the geography. Earth is moving, earth is rotating, so that is as per that rotation, whatever point is coming, which is the intersection of the axis and the surface of the earth, that is called as north pole and the south pole. So geographical north and geographical south. But the magnetic field of the earth is due to all that molten magma, all that lava, which is actually molten metal, which is rotating at the center of the earth, and it is having a little tilt. Okay, so due to this, whatever magnetic field is created, that magnetic field has a different axis. It also has north towards the north pole only, but that north pole is a little tilted like this. Okay, so magnetic north pole and magnetic south pole are a little tilted as compared to the geographical north and south pole. So whenever we talk about longitudes and latitudes, we are talking about the geographical north pole and the geographical south pole and the geographical equator. Okay, that means those poles which are determined as per the rotation of the earth. Okay, so that is called a geographical north pole, geographical south pole. So geographical poles are taken into account for meridians and parallels, that means for longitudes and latitudes. Okay, and not the magnetic ones. Okay, now what is Greenwich Mean Time and what is Universal Time Coordinated? So people coming from the IT background, you must have seen that whenever there is a date time function, we use UTC, that is Universal Time Coordinated. So what is this? After 1972, Greenwich Mean Time itself is being called as Universal Mean Time. So as you can see, after 1972, the time was called, this time was called up to 1972 it was called as Greenwich Mean Time, and now it is referred to as a Universal Coordinated Universal Time or Universal Time Coordinated. Okay, so Coordinated Universal Time is also another name of UTC. Actually, UTC also has another name called as Zulu Time or Z Time. Okay, so UTC, Zulu Time, Z Time, or even Coordinated Universal Time, it's all one and the same thing. and its earlier name before 1972, the same thing, used to be called as Greenwich Mean Time. Okay. Now the question arises, what is this time? This time means whatever is the time in the Greenwich County, which is very close to London, by the way. So whatever you will say that whatever is the time in London, that is called as GMT, that is called as Greenwich Mean Time. Same is now called as a Universal Time Coordinated, that is UTC. Actually not London, it is a small county which is very close to London. Okay, so time is the same because it is very close. London is a little towards the east of that county, so the time is the same in that county as well as in London. Okay, now due to this, you must be aware that there are three powerhouses in Europe, and they are always at loggerheads with each other. These powerhouses are Germany, UK, and France. UK and France, they keep fighting. Germany nowadays doesn't fight so much because Germany is mostly a colony of US now. It acts exactly like whatever US says. Because after fighting two world wars, the First World War was also due to Germany, Second World War was also due to Germany. So after that, when United Nations came into existence after Second World War ended, a lot of sanctions were also put on those countries who had empirical powers, that they wanted to rule the entire globe. For example, Germany and Japan. In World War II, you remember, Germany, Japan, Italy, these three powers formed the Axis, and they pulled the entire globe into this world war. It was absolutely unnecessary. It was just their empirical desires, and the entire world had to face World War II. So after that, these countries were forced to cut down on their military budget, and now these countries spend only less than 2% of their annual budget on military. Okay, so that is where their colonial ambitions have come down, and that's why now Germany doesn't speak too much, which is okay. I mean, it agrees to whatever US says. But UK and France, they still are independent kind of, and they keep fighting against each other also, and sometimes with the US also. So you might think that when this GMT came into existence, why did France agree to it? Right, because France would say now that let the prime meridian pass through Paris instead of passing it through Greenwich, which is a small county near London. Why do you want it near London? It should pass through Paris. Very true, it happened. And for many years, French people had a different time system, and UK had a different one. But then UK was such a big colonial power, and everyone started aligning with UK. Especially not UK, actually at that time it was Britain, Great Britain. Uh, Even the US was a colony of the British, so when they got independence after that, they also started following the UK time system, and that's why over the time then France became very secluded. It was the only country which used to follow its own time system, and that's why France also said let's follow GMT, and that's how GMT became a global standard. By the way, if you like this kind of a trivia, if you like to know about world politics or even Indian politics, do let me know in the comment section. I love to make videos on this. I have a lot of this knowledge, but mostly I don't get into political topics. But if you are interested, I'll do that. Okay, now why did US follow GMT? Because US was already a colony of the British, and when they got independence after that also they kept on following the same system, and that's why US was already following GMT, and that's why when UTC or when GMT became a global standard at that time, France objected, but the US did not object. USA followed GMT as it is, no problem. Now, concept of time zones. This is a very important concept, guys. See, if you understand 1 hour here, UTC minus 10 hour, UTC minus 9 hours, UTC minus 8 hours. So these are stripes, okay? And see, this one stripe is called as UTC, okay? All the stripes towards its right are adding 1 hour to it. Like this stripe is saying UTC plus 1 hour. This stripe is saying UTC plus 2 hours. This one is saying UTC plus 3 hours. Okay. Now, similarly, the stripes towards the west of UTC stripe, they are saying UTC -1 hour, -2 hours, -3 hours, and so on. So these are the stripes, but you will notice that these stripes are not straight. You take the example of this one. Now this stripe, sometimes it goes over here, here it is coming back. So the border of these stripes is not actually geographical. Why is this the case? Because Greenland is another country, it follows its own time zone. Okay, now Greenland won't say that, see, when I'm in this city of Greenland, I'll be following one time zone. When I come to this city, I'll be following another time zone. When I come to this city, another time zone, and this city, another. This is what they don't like to follow that way, because different countries like to have their own time zone. For example, take the example of China also. China also says one China. Everything in China is uniform. So China follows only one time zone. But actually it falls under so many stripes. It falls under this stripe, this stripe, this stripe, and this stripe, and even this stripe. So there are 5 stripes passing through it. So there maybe the time on the west of China, the westmost city of China, and the time in the eastmost city of China, the difference must be of 5 hours, roughly 5 hours, 4.5 hours. But still, China follows one time zone. Why? Because it is a same country. Whenever country this concept comes, now people become very emotional and they don't think scientifically. They think about nation first. They think about my country, one rule, one China. But then there are also some liberal countries like the US. US says, okay, we have territory which spans across so many geographical zones, so let's have 11 time zones. So US is very liberal about it. But then even the US is not very liberal. See, I'll tell you, whenever country comes into picture, nobody is liberal. Even the US is not that liberal. You will notice here that it is following this time zone. It should be as per the stripe, right? But see the border of these time zones, it is as per the state border. It is the state boundary. That is the problem. Whenever politics comes in between, science takes a hit. Okay, so concept of latitudes and longitudes is very scientific. Okay, but concept of time zones is very political. It's a-scientific. It is not scientific. It is based on which city is being ruled by which administration, means which state of which country. Based on that, your time zones will keep on varying. Another thing that we like to focus upon here is the US is having these 4 time zones in the mainland, another time zone in Alaska. Now here Alaska is actually in 1, 2, and 3 stripes, but still the entire state of Alaska is following only one time zone. So you will notice that some countries have different time zones, but even within them, parts of that country, although they fall in different zones, they will still follow the same time zone. Okay, so it's very, very puzzled up. Another thing that you will notice is certain countries of the world, although they are different countries, like here Europe, there are so many countries, small countries in Europe, but all of them normally they don't even fall under the same geographical stripe, but they will still say, okay, France, Germany, Poland, actually they fall into different stripes, but still from Spain, actually from Spain, France, Germany, Poland, all of them follow one time zone. This is all politics. This is all politics. Means the countries who are in favor of France, they'll say, I'll follow your time zone, man. I'm your friend. That kind of. Spain, by the way, should be following UK's time zone, but Spain follows France's time zone, and Poland probably follows the UK time zone. So it's all political. So it is not at all scientific. That's what I really wanted to stress upon. Russia, take the example of this state. This state is following its own time zone. It does not follow this time zone. It does not follow this time zone. And by the way, why this state or this part of Russia is following this time zone? Actually, it is into this stripe, which is very, very far away. And this guy is following this stripe. I don't know what goes on, man. This is how things happen. And this one little thing, it follows this particular strike. So this is very, very political. I just wanted to put it out in front of you. It's extremely political. It is not at all scientific. Concept of time zones is only political. It is not scientific. But concept of latitudes and longitudes is very scientific. There is no politics there. Countries following multiple time zones. So you will notice that US and Russia have the same amount of time zones. Why? Because you will think that Russia is so humongous, it's such a big country. First thing, Russia is not as big as you think it is. Russia looks big because it's a globe, and you're tearing apart you're tearing the globe from this point, okay, and then you're making it straight, and then you're seeing this 2D map. So in a 3D map, Russia or many countries towards the poles, they will look even smaller. But now that you're expanding it to fit the 2D view, many countries in Europe appear bigger than what they really are. So even in this 2D map, these countries look so tiny. In real life, they are even smaller than this. And same thing with Russia. Russia is not so big, but since you are having a 2D projection of the 3D globe, it looks big. Okay, so first point is this. That's why Russia has 11 time zones, and you will say, oh, US, most of the US, equator passes somewhere from here. So US is very close to the equator as compared, not very close, of course, it is still towards the north, but as compared to India, it is towards the north. But Russia is absolutely towards the north, right? So that's why Russia looks, this 2D projection effect is seen more in the case of Russia. It is seen more in the case of Greenland, Canada, or in the case of state of Alaska in the US. But the mainland of the US is towards the equator, so it doesn't appear to be so big. So that is my point number one. Point number two is US is also kind of a colonial power. Okay, now you cannot call it a colonial power. It will be very politically incorrect to say that, because US is all about liberty, freedom, this, that. But in reality, US has 800 military stations all across the world, and it does run the world. It also has a lot of islands, especially in the Pacific Ocean. They are under direct rule of the US. But the US never shows this colonial face of itself to the world. US always acts like, oh, I'm all pro-democracy and we are all good liberal people. Yeah, they are liberal as compared to the British, but still, they are also colonizers. Even in today's date, they own a lot of, islands. Now, you can't call it as colonization, just to be politically correct. Like if you say India is the colonizer of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, oh, I will be immediately labeled as an anti-national. Same thing is with the US. So if you go into the US and if you say, oh, you are the colonizers of Hawaii Island in the Pacific, or some other island in the Pacific Ocean, they'll immediately say, no, don't call us colonizers. So you are anti-US. So be see, I'll take that risk on my channel. But when you're talking in public, don't call US as the colonizers. But I'm just trying to make you understand that why it has so many time zones. So every different island over here, if you see, it will have some different time zone. That is the reason why US has 11 time zones. It's the same amount of time zones that this whole country of Russia has. You will see, so big country, it has 11 time zones. US also has 11 time zones. You know why? Because it has so many islands under its control. Similarly, if you see, France has more number of time zones than US and Russia also. Why is that the case? Because France also is modern age colonial power. I'll tell you why. France has so many islands that it still controls as its colony. For example, there are a few islands over here also around Australia. It controls it. Seychelles Islands, I think over here or here somewhere. So France controls it. India now got military access of Seychelles Islands. So that is very good move from India's point of view. But actually, it got that access because France is our friendly country and France controls that island even today. So France is still a colonial power. If you think that France is not a colonial power, no, 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 you are highly mistaken, my friend. Same thing with the UK. UK also has how many time zones? UK has 9 time zones. Why 9 time zones? It also has a lot of islands under its control. So this is the reason. So colonialism hasn't ended. It has just masked itself. I'll give an example. Many countries in Africa even today say that we follow French currency, which is franc, and that is causing to their economic exploitation. The country is not growing. All the natural resources, they are in that country, African country, but that African country is not rich. France is rich. And just because France has this leverage of using franc, and they can, you know, reduce its value or increase its value as per their, system, their currency system, all these other countries are facing the brunt of it. And you will see, in if you ever see African news or any news coming from that continent, many countries say the same thing, that you keep on bombing Mali, for example. France has had bombed Mali, or many a times NATO nations have some operations in Africa. It affects the African continent so much, and you don't really care about Africa. You are just exploiting Africa, and you're still colonizers. You're still, you know you just colonize and you just extract everything from here, and that's part of the reason why you're such big economies today. So if you like this kind of topics, then please let me know in the comment. I cannot discuss everything in the same video, but I'll definitely make a separate video on colonization, racial equality, the gender equality. These are very close to my heart. I love to make videos on these things. Everything, if Black Lives Matter, I love to talk about it, but only if you're interested, and if you show that interest in the comment section, only then I'll make videos. Otherwise, I don't like to put my neck on the line all the time. See, every time I make a video on these things, it's taking a huge risk. You cannot befriend everybody. A few people will get angry at these topics, and I don't want to face them if no one is even watching my videos. So if you're watching the videos, let me know in the comment section. I'll make more such videos. Let's go ahead. Countries with multiple time zones. Here even you will see Antarctica. Antarctica is not a country. It is common, you can say it's a common resource of the entire humankind. Okay, what is humankind? Nowadays people don't say mankind, people say humankind, so that there is gender equality. So entire humankind owns the continent of Antarctica. Okay, similarly, if there is colonization of moon in the future, then moon will be owned by the entire humankind. Mars will be owned by the entire humankind. Now it is very interesting that how these dynamics will really work, because if you see moon, there are so many landings of satellites on moon. Artificial satellites have been landed on moon. Most of them are towards the South Pole, because we have maximum amount of possibility that there will be ice, frozen water over there, and if water is there, then only we can start colonizing that part. So everyone is behind that water, and that's why everyone tries to land their satellites towards the side. Even our Chandrayaan 3 is going to be Chandrayaan 2 was also towards the South Pole, Chandrayaan 3 also towards the South Pole. So it will be really interesting that when moon starts getting colonized, at that time, do they respect this thing, that moon is a joint belonging of the entire humankind, or they start showcasing the, this is the American part, this is the Indian part, this is the Chinese part, that is the Russia is now very far behind in the space race, so I don't think Russia will ever have any ambition of colonizing moon. But still, I mean, at least these three powers, India, China, and US, it will be very interesting to see how these dynamics turn out, and do they really respect the fact that moon is a common resource of the entire humankind. Okay. And all the countries which I haven't mentioned over here, they have only one time zone. For example, India is not mentioned, India is one time zone. China is not mentioned, China is one time zone. uh, Pakistan has one time zone. Okay. Similarly, all the other countries which are not mentioned have only one time zone. These countries have two time zones. These countries have three. These have four. These have five. Even Brazil has four time zones. So Brazil is very much similar to India, economy wise also, and it also used to be an agrarian economy. So there is a lot of similarity between India and Brazil. Okay. Time zones in the US. So US mainland has these four time zones. So if your client is from New York or Washington or Florida, then they will be having Eastern time zone. Okay, so Eastern time zone is what? Eastern time zone is universal time zone, or GMT, minus 4 hours. So it is 4 hours towards the east of the UTC stripe. Okay. If your customer is from the state of Texas, let us say he's from Houston or from Dallas, then they will be having Central time zone. Central time zone is 1 hour behind the Eastern time zone. So if there is some time in New York, then the time in Dallas or maybe Houston will be that New York time minus 1 hour. Okay. Similarly, mountain time. So mountain time, here you don't have to worry too much, because a very few uh, IT companies will be from the mountain time, because here mostly it is the Rocky Mountains. So a very few companies will be situated here. Companies are mostly situated towards the west coast or towards the east coast. Even Texas, yeah, Texas is the only exception, you can say, which lies at the center, and or Chicago, you can say. These few, there are very few cities which are there in the central times, but still Eastern, Central, and Pacific, you can have clients from them. So if you have San Francisco client, then the time will be called as Pacific Standard Time, and it is like Eastern Time minus 3 hours. Okay, so this is how it is. Now, time zones in Europe. I mentioned it to you earlier also, that in Europe there are three main time zones that are being followed. Okay, although there are many stripes passing through Europe, but still, Europe basically, because Europe is the most political continent, because most of the politics in the world was due to the petty conflicts that they had internally, and the whole world got into two world wars. It was mostly due to the Europe. Germany in particular, Germany started World War One, Germany started World War Two. It was Germany's empirical ambition due to which the entire world had to suffer. So here, if you see, the eastern part of Europe follows western part of Europe, it follows Western European time zone. So mainly England, means mainly UK, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Iceland, and Portugal. Here you will notice, actually, below UK there is France also and Spain also. So France and Spain should follow UK's time zone, right? Ideally, geographically speaking, scientifically speaking. But no, that it is very, very political. Time zones are political concept. So uh, Spain says, oh, I align better with France, I am the friend of France, I will follow the time zone that France asks me to follow. Rather, even if it is not friend, it shares a border with France, so it cannot pick a conflict with France. So when France wants its time zone to be followed by most of the countries, then Spain says, okay, okay, you are anyways my neighbor, I am following your time zone. Similarly, Belgium, these small countries, even Germany. Germany is now working like an underdog of all the Western countries, especially the US. So it's an untold colony, you can say, of the US. Same is the case with Japan. Japan is an untold colony of the US. So when you say Germany follows whatever France says, because France uh, France, Germany, and England. These are the three main powers in Europe, and France is diplomatically more powerful as compared to UK and Germany. See, France is also a colonizer, but you will never hear people saying that, oh, it is such a bad country. But you will hear about UK. You will say that, oh, you are the colonizers, you are the racist kind of people. People don't say the same thing for French people, although they had all the same things. They followed exactly the same things. People will talk about Germany. People will say, "Oh, Adolf Hitler," and Adolf Hitler led to World War II. Then World War I was also due to Germany. So Germany is always demonized. They say, "Okay, you are anti-Semitic. You are against the Jews. You wanted to colonize the entire world." But what were UK and France doing? They were also colonizing the entire world, right? But you don't hear this about France. Oh, you were colonizers too. No, they say it about Germany, they say it about UK. France has a great amount of soft power. France escapes from that blame. And that's why France has better soft power as compared to the rest of the two power engines of Europe. And that's why most of the countries follow the time zone of France. Even this EU concept, European Union, was actually, it came from these three countries only, mostly Germany and France. UK was always having double thoughts in its mind, and that's why UK finally exited also from the European Union. But France has a great amount of say in EU also. Germany also has a lot of say, and it was Germany's ambition also that, at least through EU, means it still has some empirical ambition, right? So how will you fan that ambition? Okay, at least people are listening to me. So Germany and France, they are always at competition, you can say. They are always competing for their voice being heard in the EU. But France is still winning. France is on the winning side. So France mainly controls the narrative of the Europe. And that's why most of the countries, even in time zone, you will see most of the countries follow French time zone, means the Central European time zone. And then there are a few countries mentioned in yellow, they follow Eastern European time zone. There are two exceptions, Belarus and Turkey. They have their own time zone, but you don't need to worry about it because Belarus and Turkey anyways don't have many IT companies, and that's why maybe your IT companies won't come from these two countries. So don't worry about it. Crimea is also mentioned over here, but Crimea is now a part of Russia. So even before the Russia-Ukraine war, even before that itself, Crimea was annexed. When Donald Trump was there in US, at that time only Crimea was annexed. And so Crimea follows Moscow time zone. What is Moscow time zone? Everything in Russia, on the left side of Russia, the European part of Russia, it follows Moscow time zone. Okay, so these are the time zones that Europe follows. So mainly you just need to worry about these three countries because IT companies are in these three countries only. Mostly they are in these three countries. So if it is the UK, then it is UTC. If it is France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, any other country, most of the other countries, then it is Central European time zone, which is 1 hour ahead of the UTC. And if it is Finland, I think Finland is the only country that might have some IT companies. So if it is Finland, and by the way, Finland has the best education in the world. If you see Aam Aadmi Party has mentioned it so many times that we send our teachers abroad, we send our students abroad. So when they say abroad, most of the times it is Finland, because they believe Finland has the best education system in the world. So that's why if you have any IT company in Finland, it will be great if you if you try to take an on-site over there. So there you will be following Eastern European time, which is UTC plus 2. Okay. Now summarizing the major time zones. So it is just the summary. You also know this summary. So here I'll just summarize one thing, that all the timings mentioned in this second column are all the winter timings. During the summer, Western countries follow something called as daylight saving, DST. Okay, so if you want to know what time San Francisco follows during the summer, then just add 1 hour to this time. So normally during the winter it will be following PST, that is Pacific Standard Time, which is UTC -8. But during the summer time, just add 1 hour to it. That means it will be UTC -7 hours, and that time will be called as Pacific saving time, daylight saving, right? So Pacific saving time. So that's why I mentioned standard times over here in this column. If you want summer time, then just add 1 hour to it. India does not follow daylight saving, and that's why India will always follow Indian Standard Time, whether it is winter or summer. It's always the same for India. So let's dive deeper into what is this daylight saving? Why did it come into existence? So I will explain it to you using this globe. Every year basically has 4 seasons. Two seasons you already know, summer and winter, but the other 2 seasons are spring and autumn. Okay, so let us start from Christmas. So why is Christmas so important? Because from Christmas is the end of winter, you can say. That is the topmost point of winter. After that, summer starts. Okay, so from 22nd, actually Christmas is on 25th of December, but I'm giving an example. So this 22nd of December is called as winter solstice. So this is a point from which summer starts. Okay, so why is this? What is summer and winter? So this is the sun, this is the earth. Earth's axis is, earth is rotating like this. So that axis is this. So earth is not revolving like this. Earth is rotating like this, so axis is like this, and then it is rotating. Okay, so you will see that during the summer, the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun. That's why daytime will be more and nighttime will be less on the northern hemisphere. But the southern hemisphere, on the other hand, will have more nighttime and less daytime. Okay, similarly, during north hemisphere's winter, there is summer, you can say, of the northern hemisphere. Okay, but unfortunately, most of the southern hemisphere countries were the colonies of northern hemisphere countries. Like most of the European countries were the colonizers, right? So now also the African continent or the Australian continent or country, whatever you call it, they still don't say that okay, December is summertime. They will still say okay, rest of the world thinks nah, it is winter, we will also call it winter. But in reality, in Australia, for example, during December it is very sunny, the days are longer and the nights are shorter. Still they don't call it as summer. They still say okay, rest of the world says it is summer, we will call it as summer. Rest of the world says it is winter, we will call it as winter. Okay, so everything, winter or summer, whatever is the season, it depends upon what the northern hemisphere thinks. Why? Because northern hemisphere countries were the colonizers and they were the trend setters. Trend was set. After that, many countries got independence also, like Australia also got independence, mostly during the time when we also got independence. So but okay, Australia said okay, we will still keep following the same system that we have been following so far, and that's why they still call it as winter when it is Christmas. Okay, got the idea? Now let's build upon that concept. When is summer? So summer is when our northern hemisphere is facing the sun the most, that is called as summer. When the northern hemisphere is most away from sun, then that is called as winter. And in between, when the day and the night are of the same duration, there are two such points. After summer, whatever comes, that is called as autumn, or before winter, whatever comes, that is called as autumn. Okay, after winter, whatever comes, that is called as spring, and before summer, whatever comes, that is called as spring. Okay, so this is what it is. So these are all the seasons. So basically there are 4 seasons, and every season is equally important. Every season has the same number of months into it, three months. Okay, and this is the sequence in which they come. Normally people say that after Christmas whatever comes, so that is spring, summer, autumn, and then winter. So normally they start the counting from Christmas. That's why, see, even our calendar starts from January, right? Just immediately after Christmas, what comes? January. So if you think in that perspective, January 1st, then I mean, if January comes first and you start counting from there, then spring comes first, then summer, then autumn, and then winter. So this is the sequence. Now, I have put that over here just for your reference. And then in the northern hemisphere, summer means days are longer than the nights. In the southern hemisphere, when there is summer, when there is global summer, actually their days are shorter than the nights. I have just explained it to you. Then DST means what? What is DST? DST means daylight saving. So when industrial revolution came to Europe, many of the European countries started thinking that when it is summer, you can come to the factory 1 hour ahead of time, 1 hour earlier, okay, and we will leave you also 1 hour earlier, so that in the evening you can spend more time with your family. Okay, so it is win-win for both of us. For the factory owners also, it is good that okay, productivity starts early in the morning, okay, because there is light. What will you do? You have light, you have to save that light. Let's utilize that light. So if the sun rises earlier during the summer, then let's also start working earlier during the summer. But of course there are labor laws, so you cannot make a labor work beyond certain hours. So you will say, okay, you came early, we will leave you early, okay. And this is how that daylight saving concept came into existence. So whenever it used to be summertime, the European countries said that okay, let's start our country 1 hour ahead of time. So let's adjust our watches in such a way that we go 1 hour ahead of whatever time we used to follow. So they will move the clocks ahead by 1 hour during summer. And when winter came, they said okay, now let's go back to the normal. So they will turn the clock backwards by 1 hour. So this is the whole concept of daylight saving. So in the northern hemisphere, we advance the clock during the summer, but in the southern hemisphere we move the clock backwards during the summer. Okay, daylight saving is only during the summer. In winter they follow the real time zone. Okay, everybody follows real time zone during the winter, but during the summer, some western countries, some English speaking countries, they follow daylight saving. So if that English speaking country is in the northern hemisphere, they will increase the time by 1 hour during the daylight saving, that means during the summer. But if the country is from a southern hemisphere, then they will be decreasing the clock by 1 hour. Okay, so same thing is given, so moving back the clock. Okay, now few countries, only a very few countries follow DST. So DST basically means daylight saving. It came from the European countries. Okay, so all the European countries, most of the European countries follow daylight saving. America and Canada also follow daylight saving. Egypt also follows daylight saving. Egypt had no business of following it actually. It is so close to the equator, it doesn't make much of a sense for it to follow daylight saving. It is mostly applicable for countries very close to the pole, right? These countries are close to the North Pole, these countries are close to the South Pole. They should follow it. Why is Egypt following it? God knows. But Egypt is also following. Egypt still follows, this daylight saving. I don't know why. Then there are some countries given in, this light gray color, like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. These countries used to follow it in the past when they were colonies of the European countries. Okay, now they don't follow it. And then there are some countries which were never colonies, that's why they never followed anything. Like I really wonder how these countries remained uh, free from DST, because I think definitely most of them must be colonies of the Europe at one time or the other. But I don't know why they never followed DST. Now, I don't know why is that the case. Yeah, Afghanistan I can understand, it was never colonized. But other countries, I'm really confused about the African countries, about these countries over here. But yeah, this is how it is. I've given the map. And point to be noted is, even the time of the year when they start or end the DST varies from country to country. Means uh, now summer is common for everyone in the northern hemisphere as well as southern hemisphere. Summer means summer. Okay, so in the summertime you should be following daylight saving, right? But us says that, okay, we will forward our clocks on this particular day every year, and we will move back our clocks during winter on this particular day. Okay, but Australia has different dates. Australia says, okay, we will revert our clock during this time, on this particular day of the summer, and that day is different than the day that US says. And we will also revert the time, means move the clock forward to the original position during the winter, that Australia says. But that day when they'll do this, that day is different than the day when the US reverts back their clocks during the winter. So they both do it during the winter, but the days are different. Again, this whole concept of time zone, DST, everything is very political, nothing scientific about it. Okay, then next thing is, sometimes some parts of a country follow daylight saving and some part within the same country doesn't follow it. For example, here the state of Arizona in the US, it doesn't follow daylight saving. The Hawaiian Islands, uh, it's in the Pacific, doesn't follow DST. Similarly, in Canada, see this particular patch, it does not follow. This particular patch in Canada, it doesn't follow daylight saving. It's the same country. See, the Western world is very, very liberal, especially the Americas. Means this not even entire Americas, but the northern uh, North America, you can say, or maybe just two countries, US and Canada. They are extremely liberal. So, they will say, okay, there should be absolute federalism. When you say absolute federalism, every state has a lot of rights. Then the states have different laws. They say, okay, we'll follow a different time zone altogether. Oh, we don't believe in DST. So all this is allowed because there is a lot of federalism in US and even in Canada. And this is because this federalism is a part of liberal attitude. So they are very, very liberal countries, and that's why they believe in freedom. I'll give an example. If you remember, during COVID, America was the only country that I heard about, at least, whose citizens said that, we have a right to roam about freely. Your lockdowns are an encroachment on our freedom. You don't encroach upon our freedom. So they worry a lot about their freedom. They are very freedom centric country, very, very liberal mindset. Liberal means think freely, freedom. America and Canada, absolutely, they are absolutely free kind of minds. They like to be free all the time. They don't like any restrictions, even COVID restrictions. They do not want. Okay, so that's why they allow this thing that one state Arizona, one state Hawaii. Okay, probably they don't want to follow daylight saving. The entire US is following it, but these two states may not follow. It's okay. It's up to them. That's why this kind of liberties are given. Okay, now time zones during the summer and the winter. So always remember, uh, winter is the standard time. So winter is the real time. Winter time is the real time. Summer time means winter time plus daylight saving, means 1 hour. So if you are in the northern hemisphere, uh, uh, summer time equal to winter time plus 1 hour. If you are in the southern hemisphere, summer time is equal to winter time minus 1 hour. Okay, this is how it is. So if you see uh, whenever you say winter time, it is also called as standard time, also called as ST. So when you say Pacific Standard Time, then it means it's the winter time. And when you say Pacific Daylight Time, PDT, then it means it is the summer time. It is with the daylight saving. Okay, I hope I am able to reach all of you with this. This is the last slide. If there are any doubts, please ask those doubts to me in the comments section of this video, or you can also email to me, or you can also call me. But please be mindful, I am from India, so you call me during my daytime. Okay, don't call me during my night time. Okay, I have explained you the whole concept of time, so I hope you will respect my time. So call as per the daytime in Indian Standard Time. Until next time, Jai Shri Ram.
हम तो आम आदमी है जी, हमारी क्या औकात है। मैं कल ही एलजी से मिला था, उनको कहा अमित शिरासाव नाम का एक कट्टर ईमानदार चैनल है, मुझे सब्सक्राइब करना है। एलजी कहने लगा नहीं कर सकते, मैं करूँगा। मैंने कहा सर एजुकेशन का मामला है, हमारे अंडर आता है। एलजी बोलता है नहीं, सर्विसेज का मामला है, मेरी पावर चलेगी। हम कह रहे हैं सर हमें सब्सक्राइब करने दीजिए, एलजी कहता है नहीं कर सकते, मैं करूँगा। अरे तो कर ना, परेशान हो गए हम 2.5 साल से, हम भी परेशान हो गए, वो भी परेशान हो गए। एक तो हम सब्सक्राइब कर लें या फिर तू सब्सक्राइब कर लेना। और ये एलजी कौन हो गया? कौन एलजी? कहाँ का एलजी? क्या एलजी? एलजी को बैठा दिया हमारे सर पे। अब यह हमें बताएगा किस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना है, किसको नहीं। लाइक हर किसी को करना है जी, आपके घर में जितने लोग हैं सबको लाइक करना है, और आपके सब्सक्रिप्शन से चलता है जी। हम उद्योगपतियों के सब्सक्रिप्शन पे नहीं चलते। 100 लाइक पर महीना तो हर कोई कर सकता है, इतना गरीब कोई नहीं होता जी। हम बहुत गरीब है जी। लाइक कर दीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए प्लीज़।